have to say hello again. Hello to those who are watching the live stream. Make sure you turn in the creative writing through Jupiter Grades due tonight. I'm going to give out to you guys these review questions for book 1 of the Odyssey. These will be posted on Jupiter Grades for those of you who are at home. These questions will be due on Monday. Just give me the facts. Give me the factual answer to these. And I'll check it on Monday. These will become your review sheets for these tests that we're going to have.
So we have to read book 1.
Well, we're going to keep reading. We already started book 1 yesterday. We're going to keep reading today and get through as much as we can. Feel free to ask questions. You might want to read through these now so you know what the questions are that we're looking for. But we should get through most of the rest of book 1 today, and then, if not all of it. And then over the weekend, please finish reading book 1 so you can answer the rest of these questions. And we'll do a little bit of review on Monday and then continue on to book 2. So if you have any questions about that, you can ask. Okay, so creative writing, and that thing's due on Monday. Let me just make sure there's nothing else coming up. Oh, make sure you're continuing to study your sonnet. On Tuesday, so Monday will be, the review questions will be due, and on Tuesday, we're going to have a quiz on the on Sonnet 94, just the vocab, making sure you understand the general idea. But you should be continuing to work on memorizing that. You've got just under 2 weeks to get that memorized. So you're going to have to do a little bit more than a line a day if you haven't started yet. And please, please, please start ahead of time. Yes?
Are we going to have the half announcement?
Have the what?
Half announcement.
Like the sorting? Yes, I don't know exactly what's going to happen with the festival days. It's going to depend on how we're able to arrange that. So normally, a few times a year, we have these festival days where we don't have any classes. Instead, we have competitions between the 4 houses of the school, being Stewart, Calvert, Carroll, and Washington. But obviously, that's more difficult this year. And so normally the 2 major parts of the competition are in the morning. We have poetry recitation as a competition. And in the afternoon, different games. Capture the flag, sometimes things like tug of war, dodgeball. So when you're memorizing these poems, if you do a good job of it, you can win some points for your house if you're chosen to compete in that and you do well in front of the school. So keep that in mind. There's an opportunity here for you to do something for your house. If you're new to the school, you're not in a house yet, you'll get sorted into one. Anyway, and then at the end, there's a winner of the year. Stuart won last year because we're awesome. So, yeah, the first time. This is my 7th year teaching here. Every single year until this year, Carol won. Last year was the first time that they didn't win. Stuart won, so I was pretty glad about that. All right, take up with the Odyssey. Take out your books. Open up to page 79. That's where we left off yesterday. We see the gods on Olympus discussing Aegisthus and how mortals always blame the gods, even when it's really their fault. They were warned. They should have known better. And Odysseus at this point is where? Yes, he's hanging out with this nymph, Calypso. 79. Her island is called Ogygia. We'll see that name a little bit later. All right, so Zeus has been giving this speech about complaining about how the mortals always blame the gods. So we're starting 3 lines from the top of 79. And sparkling-eyed Athena drove the matter home. Father, son of Cronus, our high and mighty king, surely he goes down to a death he earned in full. Let them all die so who do such things. But my heart breaks for Odysseus, that seasoned veteran cursed by fate so long. Far from his loved ones still, he suffers torments, off on a wave-washed island rising at the center of the seas. A dark, wooded island. And there a goddess makes her home, a daughter of Atlas, wicked titan who sounds the deep in all its depths, whose shoulders lift on high the colossal pillars thrusting earth and sky apart. Atlas' daughter it is who holds Odysseus captive, luckless man, despite his tears forever trying to spellbind his heart with suave, seductive words and wipe out all thought of Ithaca from his mind. But he, straining for no more than a glimpse of hearth smoke drifting up from his own land, Odysseus longs to die. Olympian Zeus, have you no care for him in your lofty heart? Did he never win your favor with sacrifices burned beside the ships on the broad plain of Troy? Why, Zeus? Why so dead set against Odysseus? My child, Zeus, who marshals the thunderheads, replied, what nonsense you let slip through your teeth. Now, how on earth could I forget Odysseus, great Odysseus, who excels all men in wisdom, excels in offerings too he gives the immortal gods who rule the vaulting skies. No, it's the earth shaker Poseidon, unappeased, forever fuming against him for the Cyclops whose giant eye he blinded, godlike Polyphemus, towering over all the Cyclops clans in power.
Oh, wait, isn't that the answer to question one?
Yeah, there might be some answers to some of the questions here, so you can fill them out as you go. I'm not going to directly. Daughter of Phorcys, lord of the barren salt sea, she met Poseidon once in his vaulted caves, and they made love. And now for his blinded son, the earthquake god, though he won't quite kill Odysseus, drives him far off course from native land. But come, all of us here put heads together now. Work out his journey home so Odysseus can return. Lord Poseidon, I trust, will let his anger go. How can he stand his ground against the will of all the gods at once? One God alone. Zeus tells us here why it is that we already knew that Poseidon's angry at Odysseus. Now we learn why. Why is Poseidon angry with Odysseus?
Because he stabbed the one out.
What about the Cyclops? Take a look at line, what is that, 80, 87. No, 88. Who's the earthquake god in line 88?
Isn't it Poseidon?
That's Poseidon, right. What relationship does this Cyclops that Odysseus blinded have to Poseidon?
Son of the earthquake god?
He's the son of the earthquake god. So why does Poseidon care about the Cyclops?
That's his son.
It's his son. The nymph Thoosa bore him, daughter of Phorcys, lord of the barren salt sea. She met Poseidon, this other nymph, met Poseidon once in his vaulted caves, and they made love, and they had this ugly Cyclops baby. And we'll see Odysseus' encounter with the Cyclops. But right now, where the book opens, Odysseus is almost done with his journeys. Okay, so Athena responds here on page 80. Athena, her eyes flashing bright, exulted. Father, son of Cronus, our high and mighty king, if now it really pleases the blissful gods that wise Odysseus shall return home at last, let us dispatch the guide and giant killer Hermes down to Ogygia Island, down to announce at once to the nymph with lovely braids our fixed decree. Odysseus journeys home. The exile must return. While I myself go down to Ithaca, rouse his son to a braver pitch, inspire his heart with courage to summon the flowing-haired Achaeans to full assembly, speak his mind to all those suitors, slaughtering on and on his droves of sheep and shambling longhorn cattle. Next, I will send him off to Sparta and sandy Pylos, there to learn of his dear father's journey home. Perhaps he will hear some news and make his name throughout the mortal world. What's Athena's plan?
To go save him?
She's not going to directly go to Odysseus. She's going to encourage his son. She's going to go to her son, while I myself go down to Ithaca. That's the island that Odysseus lives on, or that's where his home is. He's not there yet. And she's going to encourage his son, send him on a journey to find out news about his father. How is she going to help Odysseus, though? She's not going to help him directly. Right, she says, let us dispatch the guide and giant killer Hermes down to Ogygia Island. Hermes is the messenger of the gods. Down to announce at once to the nymph with lovely braids our fixed decree.
Wait, where does it say that?
This is line 100. Let us dispatch the guide and giant killer Hermes down to Ogygia Island. Ogygia is where Calypso lives. Down to announce at once to the nymph with lovely braids our fixed decree. Odysseus journeys home. The exile must return. That's the message Hermes is going to bring to the nymph with lovely braids. Who's the nymph with lovely braids?
Aegean?
Ogygia is the name of the island she lives on. But what's her name? Starts with a C. Calypso. Yep, Calypso. Here referred to as the nymph with lovely braids. Yes. Apparently the Greeks liked braided hair. All right. Picking up in line 112. So Athena vowed, and under her feet she fastened the supple sandals, ever-glowing gold, that wing her over the waves and boundless earth with the rush of gusting winds. She seized the rugged spear tipped with a bronze point, weighted, heavy, the massive shaft she wields to break the lines of heroes the mighty father's daughter storms against. And down she swept from Olympus' craggy peaks and lit on Ithaca, standing tall at Odysseus' gates, the threshold of his court, page 81 now. Gripping her bronze spear, she looked for all the world like a stranger now, like Mentes, lord of the Taphians. There she found the swaggering suitors, just then amusing themselves with rolling dice before the doors, lounging on hides of oxen they had killed themselves, while heralds and brisk attendants bustled round them, some at the mixing bowls, mulling wine and water, others wiping the tables down with sopping sponges, setting them out in place. Still other servants jointed and carved the great sides of meat. When Athena arrives at Ithaca, what's going on?
She meets people at the door.
She meets some people at the door there. Who's there? Who's there at Odysseus' house? The suitors. Who are these suitors? What are they doing there? Why do we call them suitors? Why are they at Odysseus' house?
They want to marry Penelope.
They want to marry Penelope, his wife. Everyone assumes that Odysseus is dead. His wife is beautiful, powerful, and rich, and so these men want to marry her. Do these suitors recognize Athena? This powerful goddess? Why? Why don't they recognize her? What does she look like when she gets there? This particular guy, Mentes. She looks like Mentes, he's the lord of the Taphians, apparently. But a stranger.
Wait, so the suitors met her at Odysseus' house?
Right, she goes there and she finds them. What are they doing when she finds them? What are the suitors up to? They honoring the gods and helping people? What are they doing? They're lounging around. They're playing dice while other people are cleaning up their mess and preparing more food and drink for them. One of the themes that's going to become very important throughout this book is the theme of hospitality, which was very important for the Greeks. Hospitality. What do we mean when we talk about hospitality? What do we mean when we talk about hospitality? How can you show hospitality to somebody? Respect them. Welcome them. Give them things. What kinds of people do we show hospitality to?
People with better power.
Okay, people who are powerful. Strangers. Guests. Right, our guests. Even if we don't know them particularly well, we're going to be hospitable to them. Right, someone comes to visit you. You offer them a place to sit. You offer them something to drink, even if they don't want it. You make them feel comfortable. If there's anything that they need help with, you help them out with that. The Greek world, the ancient Greek world, 25, 26, 2700 years ago. There's no internet. There's no powered travel. People are walking, riding horses, or taking boats. There's no easy communication between places. There are no hospitals. There are no hotels. If you're traveling, you might not even speak quite the same language as the people the next town over. They probably speak Greek a different way from you do. It might be slightly different, but it might be significantly different. You are very much an outsider. These small towns where most people never left. Everybody knows everybody else, and they have for generations. You show up there, you're very much out of place. And so this relationship of hospitality is very important for the Greeks when traveling. The Greek word for it, I'll write in Greek here, is xenia. Xenia. And it indicates this relationship that you enter into when somebody comes to visit you. It's protected by the gods, by Zeus himself. And the way this relationship works is this person doesn't have a place to stay. There's no hotel for them to stay at. They come and they stay in your house. And you feed them, you take care of them, you give them what they need for as long as they're there for. And in return, they're a good guest. But also, if you or your descendants happen to travel to their town, to their house, that they then have an obligation to take care of you or your descendants. And this does pass down through the families. There's a scene in the Iliad where these two soldiers meet on the battlefield and they're about to kill each other, and then they realize, wait, our fathers had this xenia, this hospitality relationship. We can't fight each other. And so they shake hands and they part ways and they go fight other people. Often giving gifts, especially if you're wealthy, giving rich, lavish gifts. Generosity to your guests. But this relationship obviously can be violated in a number of different ways. The host could harm their guest. The guest could take advantage of the host. And that's what we see here with the suitors. The suitors are there to marry Penelope. So Penelope is obligated by Xenia to give them a place to stay and food. But they're not holding up their side of the relationship. They're being extremely poor guests. They're hanging out there for an extremely long time. They're eating lots and lots of food. They're getting drunk every night, drinking all of Odysseus' expensive wine, killing all of his cattle and sheep and goats and eating them. Odysseus is a very wealthy man, but even a wealthy man can't sustain something like that forever. And Penelope can't really kick them out either. She could tell them to leave, but why would they listen to her? She doesn't have any way to make them leave. And she is under a certain obligation to take care of them while they're there. They're shameless. They're not embarrassed by the fact that they're abusing her hospitality here. That while this man is gone, they're trying to marry his wife. They make fun of his son. They eat his food. They drink his wine. They trash his house. All right. So Athena shows up, continuing from line 132. First by far to see her was Prince Telemachus, sitting among the suitors, heart obsessed with grief. He could almost see his magnificent father here in the mind's eye. If only he might drop down from the clouds and drive these suitors all in a rout throughout the halls and regain his pride of place and rule his own domains. Daydreaming so as he sat among the suitors, he glimpsed Athena now, and straight to the porch he went, mortified that a guest might still be standing in the doors. Pausing beside her there, he clasped her right hand and, relieving her at once of her long bronze spear, met her with winged words. Greetings, stranger. Here in our house you'll find a royal welcome. Have supper first, then tell us what you need. He led the way, and Pallas Athena followed. Once in the high-roofed hall, he took her lance and fixed it firm in a burnished rack against a sturdy pillar. There, where row on row of spears, embattled Odysseus' spears, stood stacked and waiting. Then he escorted her to a high, elaborate chair of honor. Over it draped a cloth, and here he placed his guest with a stool to rest her feet. But for himself, he drew up a low, reclining chair beside her, richly painted, clear of the press of suitors, 82, concerned his guest, offended by their uproar, might shrink from food in the midst of such a mob. He hoped what's more to ask her about his long-lost father. A maid brought water soon in a graceful golden pitcher, and over a silver basin tipped it out so they might rinse their hands, then pulled a gleaming table to their side. A staid housekeeper brought on bread to serve them, appetizers aplenty too, lavish with her bounty. A carver lifted platters of meat toward them, meats of every sort, and set beside them golden cups, and time and again a page came round and poured them wine. Telemachus has taken good care of her. I wish my friends would take care of me this well when I go to visit them. What was that? 82.
No, a page.
A page. A page is a type of servant, usually an adolescent boy who, usually the term refers to someone who's being trained as a soldier. And so the term mostly gets used in the context of like medieval knighthood, where the knight has a page and the page works for him. He does things like cleans his armor, sharpens his sword, takes care of his horse, but also gets trained by the knight in fighting and those sorts of things. He goes around with him. That's what a page is here. But here, page just means one of these household servants. But now the suitors trooped in with all their swagger and took their seats on low and high-backed chairs. Heralds poured water over their hands for rinsing. Serving maids brought bread heaped high in trays, and the young men brimmed the mixing bowls with wine. They reached out for the good things that lay at hand, and when they'd put aside desire for food and drink, the suitors set their minds on other pleasures, song and dancing, all the crowns of feast. A herald placed an ornate lyre in Phemius' hands, the bard who always performed among them there. They forced the man to sing. What's a bard? Bard, anyone? Right, a bard is one of these poets like Homer who would either travel around or stay in place and would sing poems to entertain people. This, what is yours?
They made him sing?
They made him sing. They say, hey, sing us a song. Tell us a good story. And for the Greeks, poetry and music very closely connected. There isn't really a separation between them. When this was originally performed, this work, not only would it have been recited, but also sung, probably with some string instruments to go along. All right, so the bard is going to sing a rippling prelude. And no sooner had he struck up his rousing song than Telemachus, head close to Athena's sparkling eyes, spoke low to his guest so no one else could hear. Dear stranger, would you be shocked by what I say? Look at them over there. Not a care in the world, just lyres and tunes. It's easy for them, all right. They feed on another's goods and go scot-free. A man whose white bones lie strewn in the rain somewhere, rotting away on land or rolling down the ocean's salty swells. But that man, if they caught sight of him home in Ithaca, by God, they'd all pray to be faster on their feet than richer in bars of gold and heavy robes. But now, Telemachus thinks he's dead, yeah. Everyone thinks he's dead. It's been 20 years since he left. 10 years since all the other Greeks got home. But now, no use. He's died a wretched death. This is page 83. No comforts left for us, not even if someone somewhere says he's coming home. The day of his return will never dawn. Enough. Tell me about yourself now, clearly, point by point. Who are you? Where are you from? Your city? Your parents? What sort of vessel brought you here? Why did the sailors land you here in Ithaca? Who did they say they are? I hardly think you came this way on foot. And tell me this for a fact. I need to know. Is this your first time here? Or are you a friend of father's, a guest from the old days? Once, crowds of other men would come to our house on visits, visitor that he was when he walked among the living. What does Telemachus want to know from this guest? He wants to know about his father. There's no newspaper. There's no good communication between these Greek cities. It's very unusual that somebody new has come to the island. Telemachus wants to know what he can. Her eyes glinting, goddess Athena answered, my whole story, of course, I'll tell it point by point. Wise old Anchialus was my father. My own name is Mentes, lord of the Taphian men who love their oars. And here I've come just now with ship and crew, sailing the wine-dark sea to foreign ports of call, to Temesee, out for bronze, our cargo, gleaming iron. Our ship lies moored off farmlands far from town, riding in Rithron Cove, beneath Mount Nion's woods. As for the ties between your father and myself, we've been friends forever, I'm proud to say. He would bear me out if he went and questioned old Lord Laertes. Who's Laertes again?
His father.
Odysseus' father, so Telemachus' grandfather, who's still alive. He, I gather, no longer ventures into town, but lives a life of hardship, all to himself. Who tends him well, who gives him food and drink, when weariness has taken hold of his withered limbs, from hauling himself along his vineyard's steep slopes. Now I've come, and why? I heard that he was back. Your father, that is. But no, the gods thwart his passage. Yet I tell you, great Odysseus is not dead. He's still alive, somewhere in this wide world, held captive, out at sea on a wave-washed island. And hard men, savages, somehow hold him back against his will. Wait, I'll make you a prophecy. One the immortal gods have planted in my mind. It will come true, I think, though I am hardly a seer or know the flights of birds. He won't be gone long from the native land he loves, not even if iron shackles bind your father down. He's plotting a way to journey home at last. He's never at a loss. But come, please, tell me about yourself now, point by point. You're truly Odysseus' son? You sprung up so. Uncanny resemblance. The head and the fine eyes. I see him now. How often we used to meet in the old days before he embarked for Troy, where other Argive captains, all the best men, sailed in the long curved ships. From then to this very day, I've not set eyes on Odysseus, or he on me. And young Telemachus cautiously replied, I'll try, my friend, to give you a frank answer. Mother has always told me I'm his son, it's true, but I am not so certain. Who on his own has ever really known who gave him life? Would to God I'd been the son of a happy man, whom old age overtook in the midst of his possessions. Now, think of the most unlucky mortal ever born. Since you ask me, yes, they say I am his son. What does Telemachus have doubts about?
Odysseus being his father.
Yeah. Telemachus is not that old. He was 1 or 2, maybe, when Odysseus left. He doesn't really have any memories of his father. He hears things about him, sure. Yes, they say I'm the son of this great man, but I don't know. For who knows how long he's seen these men hanging around his mother's house, trying to get her to marry them. Has Penelope stayed faithful to Odysseus all these years? Telemachus maybe isn't so sure. Still, the clear-eyed goddess reassured him, trust me, the gods have not marked out your house for such an unsung future. Not if Penelope has borne a son like you. But tell me about all this and spare me nothing. What's this banqueting, this crowd carousing here? And what part do you play yourself? Some wedding feast? Some festival? Hardly a potluck supper, I would say. How obscenely they lounge and swagger here. Look, gorging in your house. Why, any man of sense who chanced among them would be outraged seeing such behavior. Ready Telemachus took her up at once. Well, my friend, seeing you want to probe and press the question, once this house was rich, no doubt, beyond reproach, when the man you mentioned still lived here at home. Now the gods have reversed our fortunes with a vengeance, wiped that man from the earth like no one else before. I would never have grieved so much about his death if he'd gone down with comrades off in Troy, or died in the arms of loved ones, once he had wound down the long coil of war. Then all united Achaea would have raised his tomb, and he'd have won his son great fame for years to come. But now, the whirlwinds have ripped him away, no fame for him. He's lost and gone now, out of sight, out of mind. And he's left me tears and grief. Nor do I rack my heart in grief for him alone, no longer. Now the gods have invented other miseries to plague me. Listen, all the nobles who rule the islands round about, Dulichion and Sami, and wooded Zacynthus too, and all who lord it in rocky Ithaca as well, down to the last man they court my mother, they lay waste my house. And mother, she neither rejects a marriage she despises, nor can she bear to bring the courting to an end, while they continue to bleed my household white. Soon, you wait, they'll grind me down as well. Shameful! Brimming with indignation, Pallas Athena broke out. Oh, how much you need Odysseus, gone so long. How he'd lay hands on all these brazen suitors. If only he would appear now, 86, at his house's outer gates and take his stand, armed with his helmet, shield, and pair of spears, as strong as the man I glimpsed that first time in our own house, drinking wine and reveling there. Just came in from Ephyra, visiting Ilus, Murmur's son. Odysseus sailed that way, you see, in his swift trimmed ship, hunting deadly poison to smear on his arrows' bronze heads. Ilas refused. He feared the wrath of the everlasting gods. But father, so fond of him, gave him all he wanted. If only that Odysseus sported with these suitors, a blood wedding, a quick death would take the lot. True, but all lies in the lap of the great gods, whether or not he'll come and pay them back here in his own house. But you, I urge you, think how to drive these suitors from your halls. Come now, listen closely. Take my words to heart. At daybreak, summon the island's lords to full assembly. Give your orders to all and call the gods to witness. Tell the suitors to scatter each to his own place. As for your mother, if the spirit moves her to marry, let her go back to her father's house, man of power. Her kin will arrange the wedding, provide the gifts, the array that goes with a daughter dearly loved. For you, I have some good advice if only you will accept it. Fit out a ship with 20 oars, the best in sight. Sail in quest of news of your long-lost father. Someone may tell you something, or you may catch a rumor straight from Zeus, rumor that carries news to men like nothing else. First go down to Pylos, question old King Nestor. Then cross over to Sparta, to red-haired Menelaus. Of all the bronze-armored Achaeans, the last man back. Now, if you hear your father's alive and heading home, hard-pressed as you are, brave out one more year. If you hear he's dead, no longer among the living, then back you come to the native land you love. Raise his grave mound, build his honors high with the full funeral rites that he deserves, and give your mother to another husband. Then, once you've sealed those matters, seen them through, think hard. Reach down deep in your heart and soul for a way to kill these suitors in your house, by stealth or in open combat. You must not cling to your boyhood any longer. It's time you were a man. Haven't you heard what glory Prince Orestes won throughout the world when he killed that cunning, murderous Aegisthus who killed his famous father? You, my friend, how tall and handsome I see you now. Be brave, you too, so men to come will sing your praises down the years. But now I must go back to my swift, trim ship and all my shipmates chafing there, I'm sure, waiting for my return. It all rests with you. Take my words to heart. O stranger, heedful Telemachus replied, indeed I will. You've counseled me with so much kindness now, like a father to a son. I won't forget a word. But come, stay longer, keen as you are to sail, so you can bathe and rest and lift your spirits. Then go back to your ship delighted with a gift, a prize of honor, something rare and fine as a keepsake from myself. The kind of gift, oh, don't hold me here. I long to be on my way. As for the gift, whatever you'd give in kindness, save it for my return so I can take it home. Choose something rare and fine, and a good reward that gift is going to bring you. With that promise, 88, off and away Athena, the bright-eyed goddess, flew like a bird in soaring flight, but left his spirit filled with nerve and courage, charged with his father's memory more than ever now. He felt his senses quicken, overwhelmed with wonder. This was a god, he knew it well, and made it once for the suitors, a man like a god himself. So Athena and Telemachus have this extended conversation while the bard is singing for the suitors. And what do they discuss?
How they're gonna get, how he's supposed to look for his father.
Right. She tells him, go out and look for your father. Go on this journey. She tells him to go to two places, Pylos first, and then Sparta. And he's going to pay a visit to some of his father's old comrades. And she tells him, well, either you'll hear that he's still alive, and if he's still alive, what's he supposed to do?
Wait out another year.
Wait for one more year. And if his father's dead, then what?
Come back.
Then come back home and give him the funeral that he should have gotten.
And find his mom.
And marry his mom off. Because if his father's dead, he's the man of the house now. And then, once he's settled that, find a way to get rid of these suitors. Kill them if necessary. Yes. Let's see. First, she says, though, this is back on page 86, lines 312 to 319. She tells him that next morning, tell the suitors, look, I'm giving you an ultimatum. You got to get out. I'm asking you to leave. If my mom really wants to marry somebody, she can go and her father can marry her off. Because her father's still alive also. That he can take care of that. All right. Let's see. Missing anything here? What is Achaia? Who are the Achaeans? The Greeks, right? Achaia is just it's a term that Homer uses for Greece. So the Achaeans, these are the Greeks. Let's see. Oh, okay. And at the end of the conversation, Telemachus, as he's supposed to, invites her to stay. He says, look, stay here. I'll give you a good place to sleep. I'll give you gifts. Obviously, you're a noble guest. I've got good things that I can give you. But what does Athena respond to this offer from Telemachus? Telemachus offers her a place to spend the night and gifts. And how does she respond to this? She says, sorry, I got to go. I appreciate it. The gift, save it for next time I come. And then when she goes to leave, what happens? She flies away like a bird. Notice there, the bottom of 87 and the top of 88. With that promise, off and away, Athena, the bright-eyed goddess, flew like a bird in soaring flight, but left his spirit filled with nerve and courage, charged with his father's memory more than ever now. This conversation does not end in a normal way. Mentes doesn't get up and just walk out the door. No. She flies off into the sky. And apparently the suitors are too drunk or distracted to notice anything. And not only does Athena have this sort of external effect of giving him advice and pointing him in the right direction, but also there's this internal, this emotional component to it. He's charged with the memory of his father. He's encouraged inside, fills his spirit with the memory of his father to give him the determination to do what he needs to do. All right, so finish reading book 1 for homework. Get the rest of those questions completed. We'll do some review and recap of that on Monday. Have a good weekend. I'll see you guys later.